introduction is yours.
Hello everyone, I really hope that yesterday was insightful and that you got to know very well the companies that you're going to work with. Today I'm here to present you Ricardo Zósimo, who is an assistant professor in our school, responsible for the development of an impact mindset in our students, and I would say in the whole school, staff and faculty. Ricardo has a diverse CV. He has founded his own company that he has actually sold. He has worked in corporates, in institutions, both in Portugal, Dublin and Mozambique. Today he is here to share with you his experience and his knowledge on impact and his passion on entrepreneurship, and also to challenge you to have or to maximize your positive impact in the world. So thank you so much, Ricardo, for coming. It's a pleasure to have you. The stage is yours. Hello everyone.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you've had a very good morning so far. I hear that this is the perfect slot for a talk, right? The graveyard spot, right before lunch. But I want to tell you that it's going to be worth it, okay? So you might be a little bit tired, and you might really, I'm sure you deserve a break after all this morning in meetings. But for the next half an hour, I'm going to deliver important value about the future, I believe. So stick with me, stay with me, and let's go. Let's talk about impact. Maybe before I say important aspects of impact, I'll say that impact and sustainability are kind of the same thing at the moment. So people talk about sustainability and they talk about impact, and I'll talk about that in a second, but you'll see that it's accompanying me the SDGs slide, the SDG circle that you'll see there, the Sustainable Development Goals. And I use this circle to signal the language of impact that we will be using throughout our session. So I hope you are as excited as I am to share this journey of impact, and so let's go. I do not have any possibility to hear any questions, so this is a standard 30-minute talk, but at the end I'd love to hear from you and have some questions, really. Maybe I'll say a little bit about what we're going to do. So I'm going to set the scene. This is going to be just about some consumer trends, some market trends, to showcase how sustainability and impact have been really important in the development of society, especially after COVID-19. And I hear that my colleague Nadim already spoke about the need for innovation, and for sure, the innovation towards sustainability is one of the big opportunities of the world at the moment. Then we are going to take you through a journey on the SDGs, and I'm going to present some ideas on the blueprint for tourism, some examples, of course, and finally, I want to give you some tools and a little bit of encouragement for you to engage in this journey with us. So, what's my motivation? I always like to start these talks by introducing you to my two sons, Francisco on the left and Manel on the right. Manel actually turned 10 yesterday. And the reason why I introduce you to Francisco and Manel is this is my motivation. Above all, I think my motivation to work towards impact and for sustainability lies on the need that we have to leave a better world for our sons. We have to leave a better world for the generations that come after us. This is so important, and this is my motivation. My motivation for the next 20 minutes is to convince you to do this with me, because of course, alone I don't have enough power to change the world. So let me start with the end in sight, right? So what's the spoiler here? The spoiler is pretty simple. 3 ideas that you can expect from this talk. 1, and everybody's saying this, so if you don't know this, I hope this is the best learning outcome of the next half an hour. Sustainability. This new thinking about impact is the new digital revolution. You wouldn't do your business without digital, do you? Would you? It's not possible. Sustainability is here now, and it's the new revolution. A lot of people, when they talk to me, ask me about the business case. So the second idea that I'm going to try to demonstrate here is is there a business case for all this madness related to impact and sustainability? And the simple answer, yes, there is. There is a business case, and I'll show you the business case and more, of course, if you want to continue this journey. And how good, if you're from the tourism area, how good are you at learning languages and new languages? So the Sustainable Development Goals, this triangle, this circle here that's behind me, is the new language of impact. So how good are you at learning these new languages and really incorporate this new language into everything that you do? So these are the key spoilers of today and the 3 ideas that you can expect from the talk. But I wanted to go deeper on this and really think about the relevance for today. If I were in your shoes, why should I pay attention? I think you'll see 3 big arguments here. On the left, where it says SONAI, ataca mercado de comida saudável, and Unilever, you will see that one of the big issues in sustainability is that you have a number of startups that are very ahead of the pack, and you have the laggards, the big companies behind. And one of the big things that is happening in this scheme, of course, in this landscape, is the smaller companies, the entrepreneurial companies, are being acquired by the big corporate partners. And the reason why they're being acquired is because the big corporate partners want to understand what sustainability has to offer them, their big corporate organizations. And see what's happening here. So SONAI bought Go Natural because of that. They wanted to understand the healthy food market. Unilever bought Ben & Jerry's, and they've been acquiring a number of other companies, really. The other second dimension that I want to put forward as very relevant to you is how the banking sector is changing. So banks need to invest in entrepreneurial organizations, in initiatives, in projects that are environmentally friendly, socially responsible, and governed well. They face a tsunami of regulation about these 3 criteria. We call them the ESG criteria: environmental, governance, and social. So clearly there is an opportunity for you to help your bank report the impact measures and the impact key indicators. And finally, of course, market. What is the relevance of sustainability for the market today? You'll see here, of course, that sustainable products in the US are growing. Other products are growing also in the hospitality industry. So all of this, I think it's very relevant for you to think about how are you incorporating impact into your business model, into what you're doing at the moment. So let me start by setting the scene and showing you some important numbers, I think. So consumer behavior numbers. I don't think these are a very surprise for you, but if they are, I think you should rethink your business model and really think about how do you incorporate sustainability and impact into your business model. 64% of consumers saying that they would, when buying sustainable products, makes them feel happy. 52% of consumers feel an emotional connection with a product which is sustainable, so that's half. 70% of consumers are changing purchase preference based on social and environmental impact. So these are big numbers, and these come from data from March 2020. So this is current numbers. But let me continue this and say, what type of categories we've seen growing. Across all categories, sustainable products are growing faster than the other products, basically. They grew 5 times faster than products not marketed as sustainable. So this is important. This is the future. But the future is already here, I would say, I would argue. And with me, you have Bain, you have Harvard Business Review, Sustainable Brands. Look at these numbers. Products marketed as sustainable grew 5.6 times faster. Task Force on Finance, climate-related finance disclosures support that investors are holding $118 trillion worth of sustainable investment. In the US, 75% of 18 to 30-year-old expected employees to do something about the environment and climate change. And of course, you have all the regulation that is happening. All of this is telling us something. It's telling us that we need to do something. We need to act as a society. We need to act on the opportunities. And maybe the opportunities come from energy. Maybe they come from the food that we offer in our hospitality businesses. Maybe it comes from transportation and how we're using transportation. Maybe it comes how we are using our investment. So all of this is about understanding what's the opportunity for us. And I don't need to show you this, but these are numbers from the United Nations World Tourism Organization. And tourism towards 2030, you will see that the trend in sustainable tourism is really growing, and it's growing in all the continents. So it's not just growing in Europe, but you'll see it's also growing in America, of course, Middle East, and other countries. So this is a growing trend, and one that I am encouraging you and inviting you to be part. So I think it's also important to note how other important trends are affecting this market. So again, I use the example of finance because all of you need to deal with your banks, of course. And if you see the progress of your banks, if you see the progress of finance and funding, you'll note that there's an upward trend here in many of these indicators. So this is a study that we conducted where we basically read the corporate responsibility reports of the major banks, Barclays, BNP, Paribas, and all the major banks, and we saw the trends towards sustainability. And what are these trends? These trends are about embedding the social logic, for example, in their core businesses, building the bank as a catalyst for change in their communities, a deeper sense of social purpose, positioning the bank in society. These are all important themes that are explicitly shown in their reports, and the bank is doing a number of activities towards this. So if you think about the finance sector as a service sector, just like hospitality, if you think about what's happening, you'll see this trend, and the banks will need partners just like you, just like your companies, to really develop insight into impact and to support projects that are impact-driven. So, as a summary, let me stop here for a second. One is this paradox, this tension that exists in the world, right? Where we have a planet that is facing enormous environmental crisis. We know that. But at the same time, we have companies, small companies, but big companies, big corporates, that are looking for their role in society. And this is where I think, I show this line because this is where I think the invitation comes to think about sustainability as something that you should include in your business case and in your business model. On one hand, we have a sinking planet, a planet that needs environmental attention, social attention. And on the other hand, we understand that companies, commercial organizations, big and small, entrepreneurial organizations, but also big organizations working together, just like in this program, could do more for society, could intervene in society at different levels. So this really shows this tension that we are facing as a world, what type of trajectory we have in front of us. So I close this section with this idea that you can do this. You are part of the solution. Part of this idea of incorporating impact is redefining the answer to this question. What are companies for? Are companies just for making money, or are companies also to bring solutions to the world that make the world develop, that make the world really fight the environmental crisis and many of the social crises that we've been observing? So this is a question I leave you to think as I move on to, but answering this question, right? everybody asks me this question. Is sustainability just a cost? Ricardo, where's the business case? So many people ask me this question. Every time I do a talk on sustainability and impact, people ask me often, but where's the business case? And I want to start by saying something which is quite judgmental. So I'm sorry if I don't appear to be forthcoming towards this arguments of sustainability being a cost. When human beings, they don't know how to speak about something that is complex, like impact or sustainability. When human beings, they don't understand the complexity, what they do is that they find simple explanations. And the simple explanation that they find in terms of sustainability is it costs more. So if it costs more, we just put a lot of obstacles because we all know that sustainability costs more. Why am I so excited about being here? I'm really excited about being here because you can drive solutions for sustainability from the design of your project, from the beginning. You can, just now, as you are building solutions in partnership with big organizations, you can really develop an understanding of how could we include sustainability from the beginning, embed sustainability as a design feature, not just something that you then need to transform, and you need to add cost, of course, because you already have another solution. So the business case exists as long as you think about the dimensions, the task that you have in front of you. And I think that's really important. Because if you are going to do any transformation of your organization, it's going to incur in cost. Think about the digital revolution. Think about the digital transformation of your businesses. You wouldn't really consider digital a cost, would you? But 15 years ago, 20 years ago, people considered that a cost. But look at today, we cannot survive without the digital revolution that we've engaged in. So we believe that sustainability is going in the same direction. We believe that sustainability is going to be essential in the near future, in 2030. It's not going to be an added feature. It's going to be central to the businesses. So let me show you about the business case, right? So these numbers go back and forth. You know that numbers change very rapidly, but let me just show you some of the numbers. Sustainable travelers, and when we talk about sustainable travelers, we mean travelers that are aligned with values like respecting and enhancing the heritage, culture, tradition, and distinctiveness of communities, that increase the connection with the local and support local. We see sustainable travelers as somebody committed to preservation and committed to authenticity. And we see really sustainable travelers as somebody that is engaging residents in a way that understands and shows respect for their communities. So when we compare the sustainable traveler with all other travelers, what we see is a comprehensive case for supporting the sustainable travelers and to open up solutions that support and welcome sustainable travelers. So for example, sustainable travelers are significantly more likely to stay 7 or more days in comparison to 3 or less days with standard travelers. Sustainable travelers are significantly more likely to engage in authentic experiences, buy local, and educating customers than other travelers. And you'll see here that sustainable travelers are also more likely to travel with more friends and to do more groups. So I think this is significant in understanding the business case, but also sustainable travelers spend more and they value all of these efforts. So not only they spend more, as they value these efforts that organizations are doing. But I think there is a key issue here, which is authenticity. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I propose how you're going to do this. But I think for you, it's really important to think about how authentic are my desire for impact. How authentic is the desire that I have to incorporate sustainability and impact within our business model. Let me just go back to something that I've said at the beginning when I was explaining the relevance. I was explaining the relevance of the banks. And the banks are going, and the financial sector is undergoing a tsunami of regulation that is going to force these investments into initiatives and organizations that can demonstrate environmental concerns, social concerns, and governance, that addressing governance issues. So you'll see here the graph leaves no doubts. You'll see here that what's going to happen is that there's going to be a number of different funding and financing options for you to acquire at a lower cost, of course, if you have environmental, governance, and social concerns. And that's a number of issues. But basically, the main headline is that money is going cheaper, is going to get cheaper for organizations and entrepreneurial organizations that have this kind of approach to their business model. So why wouldn't you do it? And I think you'll see the title of the slide talks about COVID-19. And I know that my colleague Nadim talked about COVID-19 and talked about the need for innovation in COVID-19. But the main message of COVID-19 is how sustainability is going to be part of this story of the recovery post-COVID-19. The financing models are changing, and the organizations that most rapidly adapt to this new funding landscape are the ones that are going to recover, I believe, a lot more faster from the damage made by COVID-19, especially in your sector. So I am going at a certain speed because I want to dedicate some time to this idea of the SDGs. You'll see that I have an SDG pin. As we start observing the changes in the world about impact and about sustainability, what we also observe, of course, is that the world needs a new language so that all the actors can communicate. Central governments, local governments, organizations, business schools like Nova, how can they use the same language to communicate in terms of sustainability and impact? And this is so critical that the world has taken a few steps to understand how could we really, as an entire world, adopt the same language. And this language is the SDGs. The language of the SDGs is really a language that helps us to understand a number of dreams that society has for the future. So society has a number of important dreams, and these are expressed in the Sustainable Development Goals. So these are the ambitions of the world, the ambitions that the world has for its future. So they are called the 2030 SDGs, we call them, Sustainable Development Goals. And you'll see that you might have seen this before, and you can say, oh, another UN, another UN and United Nations project. The Sustainable Development Goals are nothing like any other United Nations project. You'll see that from goals 1 to 4, you have the typical UN project: no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, and quality education. But from goals 5 onwards, you have a significant change of tone. So goal 5 and goal 10 are about reducing inequalities. Goals 6 and 7 are really about the ecosystems, the earth ecosystems. But goals 8, 9, and 11 and 12 are really designed to speak to organizations and to speak to companies. Goal 8, decent work. Goal 9, innovation and infrastructure. Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. Most of you that are looking into this spectrum of cities, of tourism in cities, there's a lot of things happening in SDG 11, and SDG number 12, responsible consumption and production. So there is a number of SDGs that speak to economic activity, speak to entrepreneurial activity. And there's actually the word entrepreneurship is dotted around many of these. And one of the important things about this, of course, is that all of these SDGs, there are going to be a lot of funding coming through these SDGs. There are going to be a lot of financing, new models of financing that are related to the SDGs. Number 13 and 14 are related to climate action, and 14 life below water, and 15 life on land. So these are more environmental issues, but of course, number 13 being a critical one, and I'll say more about that. Number 16 and 17, peace and justice on 16, and 17, partnership, because you cannot do any of this alone. I've defined the Sustainable Development Goals, but let me tell you what isn't obvious to the Sustainable Development Goals. The goals are not just goals. The goals have 169 goal targets and 232 indicators. What does this mean for you, entrepreneurial individuals? It means that if you're working in tourism, you have a number of targets and indicators that you can communicate your impact. So you can use the language of the SDGs to communicate your impact. So for example, you have indicator 12.6.1, the number of companies that publish a sustainability report, the number of the national recycling rate, tons of material recycled. So if you recycle, if you're in that space, you can communicate your engagement with the SDGs through these indicators. So it's very easy to have a common language of the world and to communicate your impact in the world. So sustainability and impact through the SDGs become an easy language to learn. They're not something difficult to learn as many other languages of sustainability that were invented in the past. But let me tell you a little bit more about this and show you, because we're very used to see the Sustainable Development Goals like this, in this format, and it looks like they're all the same, but in reality, if you look at them, what this shows, what this idea of the Sustainable Development Goals shows, is the 3 different levels of impact in the world that an organization, that an entrepreneurial company or a big organization can have in the world. So you have, of course, the biosphere level, where you have the earth systems, you have the societal level, and you have the economic level. So what's happening here, of course, is that you can make contributions at different levels towards the SDGs. So not all contributions are the same. And it also invites you to think about, what's our contribution? What's the contribution of my organization? Am I working towards the biosphere? Is that my contribution? Or my contribution is more at a societal level, where I am, for example, contributing to sustainable cities. Or my contribution as an organization, as an entrepreneurial project, is more on the economy, is more on the economic side. So you'll see that you have a number of options on how to develop your contribution towards the SDGs and how to explain that to society. But you might be thinking, 25 minutes into this talk, you might be thinking, really, Ricardo, I'm just confused about my options, right? Where do I start? Morally, I want to do the right thing, but I also need to make some money, right, Ricardo? Ethically, I want the world to say a few things, good things about me, but I also want to make some money. Is there a problem in making money? I don't think so. I think you should consider that all of these options about the SDGs and about creating impact should be sustained in a very strong business model that produces outcomes both at the social level, the economic level, and the environmental level. So this is the problem. The problem is that the world is going into, or the challenge, the world is going into a direction that no longer just environmental outcomes or just economic outcomes are sufficient. You need to build projects and build initiatives that are sustainable at these 3 fronts: social, environmental, and economic. And that's why you've got so many options here. And I want to finish my talk and open for dialogue, of course, with a little tool, right? So where do where do you start, right? So the first thing you have to start is by choosing an SDG. You'll see that a study from the WBCSD shows that the companies often choose SDG number 13, 12, and 8 as the priority SDGs. But that's your starting point. Your starting point is which SDG should become our priority. Because you cannot do 17 SDGs, no one can. But you can have priorities, and you can be authentic in communicating those priorities. You can actually be authentic in saying, you know, our priority in our contribution to the world is we're going to support climate action. I think the world is ready for that, is ready for organizations that select and they're conscious of their selection and work towards their strategic selection. So that's the first thing you have to do. That's your starting point. Choose an SDG or two SDGs that make sense for you. And if you are in doubt, or if you need a little bit of help, you know, I have my contacts at the end of the presentation, so please email me or LinkedIn with me, and I'll for sure help you to make decisions in relation to the SDGs. But okay, so that's step one. You prioritize an SDG. What do you do next? I think what you do next is think about how a sustainable project really develops. What are the main dimensions of a sustainable project or initiative? And a sustainable project or initiative always functions in a triangle that is a reciprocal triangle of forces between leadership, corporate change, or what happens inside the organization, and the product and the client. So let me start with the leadership. You know, do you have any leaders in your organization that are what we call sustainability leaders? Maybe people that bike to work or adopt some more vegetarian behaviors, for example, or like to, I've got somebody in my team that always finds out the quirky information that is happening in the US about sustainability. Do you have those? Do you have those people in your organization that you can draw upon them and support and learn from them and be humble maybe and say, you know, what could we do here? The second thing you have to do as a leader, I believe, is define the why. You know, now that you have a priority SDG, why are you doing this journey towards impact? And be clear about the purpose of this journey. Is it because new opportunities? Is it because you're doing the morally correct thing? Is it because you want the world to say good things? Is it because of connecting with other types of customers that you've not connected yet? Define the why. And manage the tensions, of course. Manage the tensions that are going to be created when you engage in this journey towards impact and sustainability. The second piece of this triangle on the right-hand side is what happens within the organization, right? What happens within your organization? So it could be, you know, how are you building on these sustainable leaders? How do you work on the business case and understanding new trends? How authentic are you in this journey, and how could you define quick wins that are authentic in this journey? And find ways of communicating. And you have a number of areas that usually hospitality organizations use to communicate what they're doing. But what's really important from a corporate perspective, from an organization perspective, is signal that you're on a sustainable journey and observe the client's reactions, right? Observe how clients respond to this journey, to the signals of the journey towards sustainability. And that could be business operations, community support, supplier relations, stakeholder involvement, and so forth. Finally, nothing will be more important than actually make changes in your product, make changes in the way you interact with your clients. So leadership and corporate work together with product, of course. So ask the team for ideas on what you should experiment. Leverage on your supply chain. Probably you have a supply chain. The supply chain might have very good ideas on sustainability. Leverage on the supply chain. Build comprehensive knowledge about your customer and their sustainability behaviors. A lot of organizations are building databases of sustainability behaviors from their customers. What are their customers interested in terms of sustainability? And combine all of these with experimenting new features and sustainable products. You don't have to change the world all at once. Perhaps start with combining and adding new features with other projects. And I'm just reaching the end. And I'm just going to maybe summarize my ideas and give you a framework of, if you're now excited, if you want to do something, what should you do? Should you do the typical approach to sustainability, which is you are doing some activities, you are going to measure those activities and communicate. And I think many organizations have done this way, and I'm not sure they've been as successful as the other way, the green way that I propose in this slide. Think about the storyline. Think about what you want your customers, what you want your stakeholders to say about your sustainable story. Think about that. And think about the KPIs, the most important KPIs of that story. I want to contribute to SDG number 13. What are the KPIs? What are the key performance indicators that will help me tell that story? And then come up with activities that can tell that story and can be measured through those KPIs. I think the green way is a much stronger proposition than the typical most adopted way, which is activities, then try to measure and then try to communicate. I think imagine the story, imagine the sustainable story that you want people to think about you, to tell about your organization, and then find measurable KPIs and develop the activities. So, what are the 3 key ideas from today? Sustainability, this idea of impact in the world is here now, and many are calling them the new digital revolution. So would you do your business? Would you do this partnership between you, the entrepreneurial organization, and the most established partner without impact? You're probably going to miss the boat of this revolution. The second big idea is that, is there a business case to all this madness? We said yes, there is a business case in 3 perspectives. If you include impact, you'll be more attractive to be acquired by a big corporate. The banks and the funding system, the finance system, is more willing to lend to organizations and projects that are environmentally sustainable, addressing social problems, and governed well. And we believe there is a trend in customers towards sustainability. So, if I have to answer, there is a business case? Of course there is a business case to this madness. And what do you need to do? You need to learn this new language, the language of the Sustainable Development Goals, as a language of impact, so that you can really take advantage of this revolution and implement a business case that makes sense to your stakeholders. So I'm quite happy. This is my contacts. These are my contacts. I'm quite happy to take any questions now and to take any and to LinkedIn with you and offer advice, of course, as part of our ecosystem in Nova. So thank you very much for doing this morning journey with me. And I'm now going to use this in case there are some questions. Thank you. So maybe I'll ask you a question. How are you including impact and sustainability by design in your projects? And are you happy with that? Do you have no questions or no concerns about that?
Hi, my name is Michał Kowalkowski from No Spoilers. Maybe I will just jump in and ask you about one thing. Our goal as a software, besides helping hospitality industry reduce their costs, is also to reduce food waste. But in our case, our target customer is basically restaurants, hotels, this kind of venues. And let's say not all of them are maybe too interested in the sustainability aspect. And as you mentioned, the people who are interested the most is their clients, but they are not our direct customers. And they do not really know if the restaurant is using our solution or not. Of course, we were thinking about doing this kind of like stickers that restaurants can put on the door that we know we care about food waste. So my question is, how do you think we could effectively use that and communicate that to maybe our customers or yeah.
So if you think about my triangle or the triangle that I proposed for today, I think the biggest advantage of something like this is if you can insert some of those features into the product that you are proposing the restaurants. In the sense, if your product, if they get a shopping list, for example, and in that shopping list, the person that is responsible of the shopping list, or the cook, or the chef, or the people in the kitchen, with that shopping list, they get a number of ideas on how to save some of that food, on how to not waste some of that food, on to recycle some of that food. And you have many resources available, so you don't even have to create resource. You can just create some content to do that. There's plenty of resource available for curation, available freely online. So that's one perspective, I think. I think the stickers perspective is fundamental because human beings, they function on two premises, right? One is data and information. If you do this, you will gain this. But the other, of course, is jealousy. So the stickers will probably enact both mechanisms, right? So some people will be jealous because that restaurant has a number of more sustainable travelers that spend more. The other people will probably need a little bit of a push to really understand how the sustainable travelers, they spend more when interacting with this type of restaurants. So that's why I think you need to intervene at various places, but help the restaurants to understand that this is an opportunity for them to attract customers that are less price sensitive, for example. That's the studies we have in terms of sustainable travelers, and consume more. So that's kind of the pitch to the restaurants. The pitch to their customers is, of course, being able to include that in menus, the stickers, and other types of perks.
Thank you very much. You already gave me some ideas. Thank you very much.
And LinkedIn with me, right? LinkedIn with me, I've got plenty more ideas. All right. So, as part of your engagement with the ecosystem, I am available to share more of our knowledge at Nova. You've got my LinkedIn contacts here, and I wish you a great journey with our Entrepreneurship Hub, and see you soon, for sure, and hopefully in our campus.
Thank you so much, Ricardo, for this very relevant talk. So now we are making our lunch break. See you at 2 p.m. If you have any doubts, you can always email us. See you soon.